Well, good morning, and thank you for joining Vibe Talk Facing the Lion's podcast. We are finally here. Good morning, Cesar. Good morning, and welcome. Here we are all about feelings and emotions, and being connected to how we feel. I know it's been a while. I was sick with the COVID. I'm back now. And boy, what a rough ride. We're asking you where you're from as you join our live interactive podcast. Dad, where are you listening in from? What state? No addresses, please. We are geared. We are positive in that we want to reach every person that listens. Bangladesh, good morning to you and your community. Our co-host and I, we are so glad to have you amongst us. Good morning to my co-host, Trish. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to be talking about something very important today. Very important. I think that you all will, in fact, not I think. I know that you all will benefit this morning from this podcast. Good morning, Trish.
Good morning.
We're finally here. What are you all thankful for? We have our guest that is with us from Bangladesh. And we're so happy to have them along with us. We ask a very important question, don't we, Trish? What are you all thankful for? What are you thankful for in your life? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm thankful that I survived the COVID. It is something you honestly don't wish to get again. Please keep yourself safe from that. And so the recovery was a slow process, but nevertheless, I'm survived from that, and I'm very grateful. And if there's any of you that are fighting that, please take care of yourselves. What are you all thankful for? Trish and Zad, what are you thankful for this morning?
This morning I'm thankful for doing well in school so far.
Yay!
I'm glad. I'm glad because I thought it was gonna be. I have some hard moments, but I'm doing better than I thought I was gonna do. So yeah.
I love it. Love to hear it. Vibe Talk is all about being positive. Thank you, Cesar. Thank you. Our audience member says, nice to hear that you are recovered. How is it for you guys there in Bangladesh? Are you guys still dealing with the COVID-19 there? And please include what you're thankful for. If you guys get a chance to hear our podcast, we're live and interactive. You know the part I like is both parts, the live and the interactive, that you can actually call into our program. There's the information, our direct connect. You can even call us right from your Facebook Messenger. We're working on being able to get to you however, and by whatever means necessary. And when we're not live, we will be streaming from your favorite podcast. And there are some ones that have been put up. So go and listen to them. Zed says, our situation is quite normal now. What are you thankful for? And what a beautiful picture that you have. Thank you so much. We are back. For those of you who have been looking for us, we didn't go anywhere. We had to be in hiatus. And, sometimes being in hiatus is hard because you're used to hearing our programs. But we do have our live posted. Whenever we're on here, we have live conversations. Today we're going to be talking about reclaiming. Shall we get into it? Because I think this is a powerful quote for today. Notice what it says, and by the way, today is our Transformation Tuesday, which means that when you come into our podcast on Tuesday, that you are expecting change from something. What would you like to change today? By the way, that's our Vibe Talk question. Tricia, if you go ahead and put that question in. What would you like to change today? We've had that question before, but not in that way. What would you like to change today is our Vibe Talk question. We're going to not make this general, what the information from this inspiration is. We're going to make it for everyone, not just women, because we're living in a world where people feel like no one hears them. How many of you have ever felt like no one hears you? You're talking, but no one's listening. How many of you have ever felt like that? Go ahead, Trish.
I said I have.
Yeah. What about our audience member? Have you felt like that, Suzette, that you're talking, but no one listens to you? Here's a thought. Come a little closer. The things that women reclaim are often their own voice, their own values, their imagination, their clairvoyance, their worries, their ancient memories. If we go for the deeper and the darker and the less known, we all touch the bone. How powerful do you think that is, Trish?
I think it's very powerful, and I like it. I like how it rhymes.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about reclaiming. How do you reclaim something? If you're sitting in the seat of feeling nobody's listening to you, we are not only reaching the women, we are reaching all human living and breathing with this thought. We're going to be talking about that. But first, as you always know, that reclaiming, in case you're not familiar with it, we're going to talk about it. Let's get right to it. Reclaiming. What is it? Trish, you want to look that up and tell us what it is?
Sure.
If you can, please and thank you. And we are still here. By the way, our Connect number is 661-503-8993. If you're on social media, and that's where we are live, both Trish and I, you can call us directly from there. And we'd be happy to hear your thought on what is it that you would like to change. What would you like to change today? Go ahead, Trish.
Reclaiming is to retrieve or recover something previously lost, given, or paid, or to obtain the return of something.
Thank you so much. In other words, simply put, take back, regain, recoup, or recuperate from. Many people say this, and I have heard this in the past week. I've lost my voice. You know, losing your voice is not an option. If you're sick, you lose your voice. If you are living, you will always have a voice. Does that make sense to anybody out there? So when you're reclaiming something, you are reclaiming, in essence, your whole entire self. You know that voice that comes out of your speaking box? Without you, there is no box. You breathe into that box and you're able to say what you mean and mean what you say. Reclaim. Take back. Because, you know, everyone has a voice. How do we know? You turn on the news, you hear voice. You read your social medias and you hear people speak. You hear them by what they say. And that's why we have Vibe Talk, because Vibe Talk does exactly that. Helps you to hear what you want to say. Some of you come in here and some of you have never told your story until you've come into Vibe Talk. I'm taking a class right now that deals with community changes, how people are affected by things that have happened. We're learning about stress, traumatization, emotion, peer pressure. And you know, since I've been taking this class, I have learned so much about myself. Now, being a life coach, you already study into learning about how things work. We're even considering, and for those of you who are first time here, Trish, you might want to go ahead and make a note of this, a book that helps you to understand why you may have lost your voice, your will to speak, your will to speak out, speak up. We're going to talk about that. The book is entitled Feelings Buried Alive Never Dies. Trish, can you put that on both sides, please? Why is this book important? Because this book helps you to get connected to you, to reclaim you. You are not lost in translation. Many of us come from all walks of life. We all have a story to tell. Maybe some of us don't really want to share it, but that's okay. For those of you who are not ready yet, you can listen to our stories. because that's what we want you to do. It helps you to understand why you may even feel the way you do and to get connected to the deepest part of your emotion. What a beautiful book. The book is Feelings Buried Alive Never Dies by Carol K. Truman. If you want to go ahead and listen to it, we are endeavoring to finish that book this year. And the next year we will, Trish and I, talk about another book. But for right now, we are dealing with that one in class. You are on the podcast, which is part of class 2. If you want to join us in our class, see Vibe Talk, get in touch. There's no way you can't get in touch with us. We are here for you. And it's Vibe Talk Facing the Lions podcast. So let's get in this. Trish, if you have anything to say, you speak up. We are anticipating what you are going to say in your Trish's Treasures. Stay tuned for that, guys. Stay with us. We want to thank the podcast streams that have invited us to join their podcast families, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Please get our podcasts wherever your favorite podcasts are. Back to reclaiming. How does one reclaim self? How does one reclaim self? When you have lost something in traveling, like your luggage, there is such a thing. People lose their luggage and they have to go to the baggage reclaim section, and they have to claim that they have lost their luggage. And so you go through steps that say you're on a trip far away, and they do their best to reclaim your luggage. How they do it? Wow, it's amazing. But they will find that luggage, if it has been lost in transportation while you were traveling, they do their best. 9 times out of 10, you are reunited with your luggage. Now, when you think about reclaiming something, you want to be able to cultivate, you want to be able to make use of it. Now, we're talking about speaking voices. You know, a lot of people say, well, you know, I'm not really good at speaking. But I want you to start reclaiming something today. How many times have you heard a small child, before they even learn to fully vocalize a whole sentence, say, no, no? Every child on the planet Earth knows that word. And sometimes, even before they learn mama or dada, they learn the word no. That's the first word they'll say to you, no. And sometimes they'll say no even when they mean yes. How many of you are still doing that? Saying no when you mean yes, or yes when you mean no. You're not too sure of how to use your voice. Anybody out there? Trish, what do you think?
I do it sometimes, but I'm better than I was before, though. I'm trying to say what I mean, you know, and sometimes it's hard to do that because, you know, I want to make sure that people understand me. Mm-hmm. It's funny we're having this conversation because I had a discussion in class yesterday about this exact same topic. Mm-hmm. And like I was saying, when I write, my problem is I want people to understand what I'm saying. So I don't really write what I really want to say. I want to write it so people can understand more so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To our audience member out there, you may go ahead and put in your questions or comments. Good morning. Is it Michael? Am I getting that right? Where are you listening in from? What state, please, and thank you. If you are an audience member out there, go ahead and join in the conversation. There's a chat box for you. You can even call in. We invite you because we want to give you a chance to speak. Thank you for joining us. Now, when we reclaim ourselves, the first thing that we have to think about is, what are we talking about? People lose themselves through many things. You heard me say illness. You heard me say through life's experience. It's always going to be an experience of some sort. And please know that every experience is different. The first thing that I want you to realize is that we all have experienced something. Now, you may have lost your voice through an abusive relationship. Not all have felt like they've lost their voice from the same situation. When you lose something in life, whatever it is, death, breakup, divorce, you are actually losing parts of yourself. How many of you have experienced that? Anybody? Yes,
I have.
Yeah. You want to tell us about it, Trish, as much as you can, or?
Yes, I'll share. When I had a breakup, I lost my positivity and my usual optimistic mindset because of what happened during the breakup. And that's what caused me not to get into relationships like that because of what happened. And it made me also lose my confidence in like getting with people and meeting new people and stuff like that. So yeah, I lost myself in that.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. If you're listening, when you have experienced something like trauma, you know, we've been talking about trauma in this class that I am in, and I never realized that trauma, all of us have experienced some kind of trauma. But did you know that there are still some that really cannot connect from the trauma? When you say that people have experienced trauma, they look at you as if to say, no, I haven't. But every living person has experienced some sort of trauma. How many of you have gotten a phone call that was very upsetting? And it goes like that. I have some bad news for you. How many of you have ever gotten a call like that?
I have.
And you start to do what? What's the experience that you start to feel when as soon as someone says that?
Fear.
Fear. And what does your body do?
My heart starts racing.
Uh-huh. I'm familiar with that. Heart starts racing. Yeah, because you think, okay, bad news. Right? That's trauma to the body. Come a little closer. That is trauma to the body. Because you see, our hearts are not meant to race when we hear that kind of news. Yes, we have heartbeats. But if our hearts were meant to race, we'd all be a different set of people. So we experience the fear and then the heart race. How many of you have felt so traumatized by something that has happened in your life that your heart feels like it is at the bottom of your feet? Anybody felt like that before?
I have.
Tell us about that, Trish.
When my dad got into a car accident, that made my heart drop because at the time, the phone call that we're talking about right now, I got that, and I was like, my heart started racing, it felt like my heart just fell, but I'm still breathing though.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like flashbacks, sometimes, like, my dad got a new van, and it looks just like the one he got into a car accident in, and when I saw that, it, triggered a memory in me,
Mm-hmm.
and when he started driving with it, I got very anxious. I was like, Mom, why did he get this van? What happened with the other one? And then, and it was just me, having flashbacks and anxiety for what happened before because I was traumatized.
Yeah. Do you see how she's associated the traumatization with the flashback? She said trigger. Think about that. Every one of us has had that experience. Why did I bring that up? Because you see, that's the sort of thing in your life that causes pain. It's the complex part of yourselves. Now, I want to say this as a gut puncher. Can you imagine being a little child, a very young child, feeling all those feelings of fear, and your heart races, and yet you have never been able to quite talk to anyone about it? And they all come from a numerous of things. We are all made up of different experiences. So many of us, because of feeling and not reclaiming, disconnect. I'm going to say that one more time. So many of us who've experienced trauma, being traumatized, experience disconnect. That becomes unhealthy. Many people suffer from things of alcoholism, drug abuse, eating disorders, self-harming. Why do we do that? Why do we do that? Because we are trying to reclaim low-key. Don't you wish that we could just say that? You know, I'm doing this because I'm suffering from an experience that traumatized me so deeply that I just can't take the pain. How many of us have felt like that? And I want to tell you something. If you're doing none of these things, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, eating disorder, unhealthy relationships, self-harm, impulsive behavior, to bury your pain, I'd say you are off to a good start. But now I want to put something else in your mind's eye. If you are experiencing these things, I want you to understand transformational change, to do something about that this day. And mind you, it's not going to go away. I just want you to be aware of it. Awareness is awakeness. You're awake. You're alert. If you've been doing this to bury the incredible pain that you have carried around, you are reclaiming yourself this day and forevermore. Is there some kind of magic to this? Absolutely not. You will have to go through the steps. But believe me, you can do it. For those of you, you've learned to cope this way because you have lost your own reclaiming of yourself. You've lost that. How do we understand it, though? Sometimes in the translation of life, we have all too common feelings of overwhelmingness. How many of you have experienced being overwhelmed to the point of you say, I just can't take it. I'm so overwhelmed, I'm not even going to get dressed today. And that's okay. We just ask that you not stay there. Reclaim your feelings. You know the baggage that I told you that we lose in life sometime? We do that in a social, emotional, and mental way every day. Do you know how many baggage are not reclaimed? Here's an assignment. Call your local airport and ask them, how many baggage, how much luggage is never claimed? They're going to give you a percentage. Imagine that. Why would people not come back to reclaim their things? That's why you have lost and found. And today, I want you to find yourself in the stories that you hear or in this conversation. Everyone must do their journey to find. In this case, finding yourself, which represents your voice. You know, when we talk about disconnection, you know, you don't have your luggage and you say, oh, everything in that luggage, I need it. My clothes, my shoes. Maybe some of you are carrying around some important papers and you feel what without that? You feel lost. Let's even bring it down even further. How many of you have been without your phone because you forgot it? Try going a day because you forgot it. You're so lost that you can't even think. Because if you say, if I need to make a phone call, I can't make a phone call because my phone, I forgot it today. So you know how that feels. You feel disconnected. Disconnected. But now we want you to reclaim and reconnect. You've experienced discomfort in your life's experience at some point. Let's be fair to say that at some point. But now you turn to other things because you feel disconnected, you know? And so you disconnect because you feel like you're overwhelmed, which brings on anxiety, causing sadness. People turn to other things. Now we want you to think about the seriousness of reclaiming yourselves. When you reclaim something, you say, yes, this is mine. I own this. But if you're not reclaiming something, it is like putting a Band-Aid on something that you have been bleeding for months, days, even years. What's going to happen if you don't protect that is you are going to bleed out and be unconscious if you dare do that. So right now, those of you who are not reclaiming yourselves from a bad experience, from life's experience, because you've had them, no matter what they are, you have had them. Indeed, you have. There's no denying that. And you've had them by this. You've either heard someone say, or you've said yourself, and I'll say it to me, I've heard, or I've said these words. Listen to how we speak to ourselves, or how we speak into ourselves by saying these words. You ready? Come closer. I just don't even know who I am anymore. Who is this person? How did I get here? How did I become this? How many of you have ever said those words? Anybody? Anybody? Even if you don't claim it, you have said those words in one way or another. And so what begins to happen, you start to tell yourself, I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to feel like the way I used to feel. How many of you have said that? Anybody?
I have.
Yeah. And how did that feel, Trish? You want to tell us about that?
It felt like, it's like when you get tired of something, and tired of feeling a certain way, it's like, I'm ready for something new. Like, you know, it's like when you see characters on the cartoons wearing the same outfit, we're like, are they going to change their outfit? Like, what else are they going to wear? In certain episodes, they have, like, different outfits, so we're like, oh, that's better whatever. That's new. And it's like, that's how it felt for me. Like, it's like I had to get sick of the feeling of feeling sad and depressed for me to actually change it.
Yeah. And we're talking about transformation today, which is changing something about yourself. So in this conversation, we're asking the thought, what is it that you'd like to change today? Because none of you will walk away from here today feeling the same way that you did before you clicked on to here. Something very profound that Trish said was about being sick of something. You're sick of the way things are. So you move into change because you want to do something about it. Another thing that she said in conversation was in relation to the cartoon characters. Maybe we're sick of what they're wearing, but are they sick of what they're wearing? Maybe you're sick of how you're feeling. Or maybe I'm sick of how someone feels, but am I having the power to do something about the way they feel, about the way you feel? You see, the operative word is you. You must do something when you feel sick and tired of it. It is no one else's power or responsibility. You own the power. Reclaim. For every one of you who are listening today, and we know that you are, we have a guest here from Bangladesh. Many of you will come in. I want you to write the word reclaim. And then I want you to ask yourself, what is it that you need to reclaim today? Maybe you didn't lose your luggage. What is it that you need to take back today? You know, I want to tell you this, I actually can't stand when people say I've lost my voice. Why do I not like that terminology, that verbiage? Because to me, that's like giving away your power. It's like giving away your power because you say, I've lost your voice. If you're living or breathing, even for the people that have had traumatic accidents in their life and they no longer can speak easily the way you and I, doctors have equipment that helps them to speak out. That's so amazing to me. So if they can go through the traumatization of being able to speak and to help you, Trish, you said this earlier about understanding what you write. Well, the doctors do that for the people that have been in traumatic physical accidents, physical injuries, so that they are able to reclaim their voices, so that you and I are able to understand what it is that they're trying to say. If you've ever saw things like that, it's amazing. Because they can't speak, and by their experience, they chose to have a voice box. And some of them have been so physically injured that they can just almost touch something on that board and it makes a sound. Have any of you saw something like that? That was in a movie that I saw. Can't think of the movie, but in real life, I saw it too. It's amazing. Have you ever saw that, Trish?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. They have that. I don't know what they call it, but it's there. And it will speak. It's a machine that will speak for them. Why did I tell you about that? Because now you don't have an excuse anymore to say, I've lost my voice. I feel powerless. Because that's exactly what you're saying. If you've never looked at it like that, that's exactly what you're saying. You don't have the power to speak. Stop giving away your power. Learn to reclaim your baggage, your luggage. Learn to speak onto it. Go claim it. You can reclaim yourself in some of the most powerful ways, just like I just talked about the voice for the person that has had traumatic injury. Sometimes in life, ladies and gentlemen, we may feel deeply lost. You're so lost. You're here, but you are breathing. You're just breathing. I come into contact with people like that. I've been like that myself, where I'm just breathing. And that's why we have an exercise in here to revisit our childhood, to reclaim that inner child, so that the inner child can make us reclaim our adulthood. We think about that child and we remember things. We're able to speak out for that child. Because when you were a child, maybe you didn't know how, so you had no choice but to accept it. And now that inner child still needs a reclaiming of what? That they are loved, that they are not powerless. You are reclaiming that inner child so that your purpose in life is more than just to breathe, but rather to live. When you see a child, every child, they live in the present moment. Every child. They could have just had their house burned down and they were lucky enough, or fortunate, excuse me, because I don't want to use that word too loosely. They've been fortunate enough to survive it with just the clothes on their backs. That child is not going to tell you about what happened yesterday. Why? Because that child is busy playing, busy eating an ice cream or drawing or whatever they do, until you start asking questions. Why is that? Because children have an incredible ability to just be in the moment. Watch a child, but don't stalk him. Just watch it. Any children in your life, they have an ability that some of us fight through, or fighting through, for a long journey. They have it. And that's what we want you to reclaim, the ability to be powerful. They're in their moment. They're not worried about the future. They're not worried about what happened in the past. They're just there. They're just there. Here's an experience from someone. And he says, there was a time when I was lost. I embarked on an archaeological dig to discover who I used to be, with the hope of finding inspiration to bring light to who I might become. I want to stop there for a moment before I go on with this experience. This is a true experience. Did you notice? They wanted to discover something, and that was who they used to be, in hopes of finding who they will become. See, because that person that has experienced the loss of voice, loss of power, the not reclaiming, can reclaim. And then it has the word hope. Hope is like a flashlight in a dark, dark room. How many of you realize that? You know, you are looking for something in the dark, and you say, well, we need light, and that light is able to help you see. That is how hope is. So I'm going to ask you, how many of you have hope this day, Tuesday, Transformation Tuesday? Anybody in here? How many of you have hope?
I do.
Yeah. Now I'm going to ask you another question for those who will come and listen. How many of you have hope in yourself? Because we use this word, I hope so. We use this word for our children, our family members, our mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, uncles, cousins, list goes on and on. But how many of you hope for or hope in yourselves? Hope. It's like turning on a flashlight in a very dark room. Hope. Going on with this experience, they begin to say, that they were going through old photographs, things they had written about, things that they had stored away. Because you see, all of that was their past. So what they did was begin to collect information, reconnecting with the parts of themselves before the trauma happened. If you have your memory jars that we've talked about in your toolbox, then that's what you could use as a starter for yourself to reconnect to yourselves. Because you're going to need some of that to answer those questions as to what are you doing, who you are, who do you want to be, as a reminder. So as they started to reconnect with all the information that they had, they started to think about the pre-self, the destructive self, and then they pretended to be a journalist interviewing people who knew them for a long period of time. You have people like that. Your family, friends. I have friends that I've been friends with for 30 years. But you have to be ready for this assignment, because this person did this. This is a true assignment. Or they did this. So as they were vulnerable, they would ask the people who loved me, tell me about me. Wow. Tell me about me. How many of us can look into the mirror and mirror talk ourselves. We do mirror talk in here. That's when you can talk and have a conversation with yourself. It is raw. It is sometimes complex and very painful. But then you're going to learn the joy of yourselves. The joys of yourselves in that mirror talk. And you can ask yourself, tell me about me. What did they learn? They reconnected with themselves, the younger versions of themselves. They say in part, by 2 years old, they were mothering their baby brother. How so? Because he used to say about his brother, that's my baby. Because he would always care, as most older siblings do, for their younger. He would care. And then he had a cat. And this cat he would dress up in doll clothes and put in doll carriages. Or excuse me. So what did they discover about themselves? That they love to nurture and care for others. From the time she was 2 years old. What did she say about this? That it helped save her life. What did she do? She said, in the process of the eating disorder that she had as an adult, she began to reclaim her life. So how did she change this? She started working with adults who were severely mentally ill. Giving to those type of people. As she started to do that, she shifted into the sense of self. As she started to care for them, she in turn allowed herself to care for her. If you're there already, you're on a good start. You see, there is hope. Not at the end of the tunnel, but in your darkness, there is a flashlight that you can click on to hope. Remember, the flashlight serves as a hope. She said she began to awaken to awareness, realizing that that light gave her purpose. She was able to help other people have clear vision. When we come from the darkness and we have that flashlight, we can see clearly. Can't we? And she says from that she began to create a more meaningful life. Now, as I told you that story, did you place yourself in that story? Because see, you are not without hope. Here's an assignment I want all of you to try. It's a very simple one. I want you to place yourself in a very dark room with a flashlight. Don't do this unless you have a flashlight. And right now I'm using psychology on you because I know that everyone has means of a flashlight on your phones, because when you look at everybody, they're on their phones. Only use the flashlight that's on your phone to help you understand the hope, the possibilities that you have. First, I want you to be in that dark room and ask yourself, how many things can you find in the dark? Don't just lie there and think about it, but I want you to try to find something. Focus on one thing that you're trying to find. Maybe start with your shoes. And then I want you to put those shoes on in the dark and see what you come up with. As you do that assignment, I want you to try it again with the light on and see how many things you can find. That, ladies and gentlemen, is your hope. Hope in a flashlight. Hope in a flashlight. There's so many experiences like this, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to be able to start looking at yourself and start thinking about, how can I reclaim me? Another thing, you might know your dark room well enough to walk around and say, well, this is that, this is that. But there is still hope, ladies and gentlemen. AZ Space, good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us. We want to ask you, where are you listening in from? For those of you who are trying to reclaim yourselves, these are simple exercises that you can do to help yourself. Where are you listening in from, please and thank you? What state? No addresses. We ask that because we want your community. Is that Los Angeles or Louisiana? Los Angeles. Yes, I'm from West Coast as well. And my co-host is from?
South Carolina.
Yeah. We thank you so much for being here at Vibe Talk Facing the Lions. You can find us anywhere. You can find us on Facebook, Vibe-Talk. We're on Instagram. But our lives are done here, ladies and gentlemen, right on our Facebook page. We are live, both my co-host and myself. We're talking about reclaiming. What are you thankful for today, AZ Space? And our Vibe Talk question is, what would you like to change today? Living. Thankful for living. I like that one. Yes. Thankful for living. So now we're getting into the meat of our conversation, reclaiming yourself. Some of you say, I'm so lost. When an experience of traumatization happens, you get lost. But now here are some things that I want you to think about. How many of you have traveled? And I use that word travel because you're a traveler if you leave your home. How many of you have traveled somewhere?
I have.
Yeah. The way we do it in here, ladies and gentlemen, when I ask a question, you can just put your hand up. Where did you travel to, AZ Space? And Trish, the same question for you. Where did you travel to?
I went to Colombia.
Oh, yay! Every year I take a trip, and I travel from California to Utah. And I want to ask you guys this for a reason. The Illinois, okay. So you go places and you visit them and you gain experience. How many of you have gained experience from your traveling? Anybody?
I have.
Yeah, what experience did you get from your travel?
I went to the art museum.
Yay!
And it was the illustrator for Alice in the Wonderland, and I enjoyed the art museum.
You told me that because you want me to be jealous. You know I love Disney. I would have enjoyed that. So you gained experience, right? That's part of reclaiming something that you enjoy, something that you learned from. See, we can take the bad parts of our life, the more challenging, the painful parts of our life, and learn something from it. AZ Space, what about you? What did you learn from the Illinois? What did you learn from that? What did you learn from going to that? Or what did you take from that? And then I'll go next because I want to tell you guys something. Something that I learned. Well, and you can answer if you want to. If you're not comfortable, that's okay. That's okay because we're glad you're here. I learned from traveling, wow, that I could actually travel. Because you know what? Outside of my own place in California, I'd never done a travel like that by myself. And I learned so many beautiful things. The first time we went to a museum. It's interesting that you brought that up, Trish, because this museum was filled with the animals that is there locally, and it was so much fun. We actually lost ourselves in there because it was so much fun just to go to a museum. Take those parts of yourself. And even for those of you who, for one reason or another, might not really necessarily travel to distant places, you can travel right on your internet. You can go places on your internet without ever leaving your home. Why do I say that? Because I think it's very interesting for us to be able to visit and travel, because those are the things, remember, like the lady talked about that was in her storage box, memories. You're making memories. How many of you feel like you can make a memory, a good memory? Everything is not always bad or something that is a negative. We want to turn our life's experience into something positive. You know, we talk about the things that may not be graceful, but at the end of the podcast, you learn grace and you learn something about yourself. You see how she got the nurturing from taking care of her baby brother just from an experience. She learned to help people because that was in your nature. Find out things about yourself, ladies and gentlemen, to reconnect with yourself. See, we're so busy finding out things of other people, right? Now, this is something, when we reclaim ourselves and reclaim our lives, that we failed to do. Unplug from social media. Every now and then. I'm going to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. I was so sick. I couldn't post anything. I was very, very ill from the COVID. But now, maybe you don't have the COVID. Do you just say, this is going to be the day or the week that I'm going to just unplug from social media? What do you think is the worst that could happen to you? Let's start with the worst first, because everybody wants to talk about all the bad. Let's talk about what's the worst that could happen to you as you unplug from social media. What do you think, Trish?
I can't think of anything.
The worst. Here's the worst that could happen. I won't be able to see what my friends or family are doing. That's the worst. And what's the best thing that could happen if you decided that you wanted to unplug yourself from social media? Because some of you can't go a day without being on your social medias. But think about what's the best that could happen. What do you think, Trish? And anybody else can answer this as well. Go ahead.
I think I can get more rest because social media is very time consuming, just scrolling through it, and it makes you lose sleep. So I can get more rest.
Yeah. Because you're wondering, the worst of it is, if you didn't get any likes on what you post, you're worrying, why does anybody not like me? Becoming an enemy to yourself. And a lot of times, if you didn't get any likes, maybe it isn't about you. Maybe they just didn't look at your post. Think about that one. How many times have you had deep conversations throughout the day? Talking deeply. You know, let's get past the how's the weather. Talking more deeply about your conversations. And it doesn't have to be on anything that's going to create contention. You know, maybe you're going to start a conversation, or maybe somebody's going to talk about a pair of jeans. We're going to try that one day. My co-host and I. We're going to try that to see where a typical conversation can take us, because we found out in Vibe Talk that these kinds of conversations go very deep. You know that part where it says we will touch the bones in our piece, our conversation piece today? That's what we're talking about, the depth of conversations, because it reveals something about you. You can start out by saying, I love those jeans. And then someone adds on to the conversation, I love those jeans because they're comfy. Oh, I've had a pair of jeans like that. And then someone adds on, and pretty soon you've got a conversation in depth about a pair of jeans. That's what Vibe Talk is. It takes you into the fiber of the jeans, the fiber of your feelings. One person starts out and the other person say, you know, I can relate to what they're saying, and then they start to tell their stories, if they want to, getting into the fiber of the jeans. Trying new things. I hate trying new things. I hate trying new things. Why? Because there is uncertainty. Why? Because it's change. But have you ever tried a new thing and you actually like the new thing and you say, I want to try that again? Well, that's all the advertisement business is all about. You know that new cookie that you tried? The Oreo cookie? You liked it, didn't you? And so when the year rolls around, they will try a different Oreo cookie. How many of you have been tempted to try a new Oreo cookie in a new flavor? Me, I'm guilty.
I have.
Yeah, that's called guilty pleasure. Try new things. If not Oreos, try something new. Reclaim who you are. Reclaim yourself. Reclaim who you are. I love this saying. Courage is reclaiming your life after a devastating event robs you of it. It is taking yourself to another level of your own existence where you are. Beautiful thought. Beautiful thought. Think about that. Think about how you can have hope. Not at the end of the tunnel, but while you're in the darkness. You know, I'm a person that looks into inspirational sayings. I always wondered. Yes, there is hope at the end of the tunnel, but there is also hope in the darkness. With your experiences, with your traumatizations, with your triggers, there is hope, ladies and gentlemen. There's hope. There's hope. I want to tell you about something else. This is a metaphor. We like using metaphors. Something that symbolizes something. I want to tell you about life being like a motor car. Life is like a car. How is that? That car can be used to travel. We use our cars, right? We travel everywhere. We go everywhere. In fact, before walking, we think to jump in our car. How easy is that? Boom, we're there, right? Because we know that that car can go the distance. But you know what? Some people will lie in front of that car and allow it to run over them and blame it for the accident. Is that gut punching? Now, when we think about it, how many of us are doing that? Because you see, that car represents, I can go many places and I can go the distance with this car. But how many of you would actually lie in front of that car and allow it to run over you and then blame that car for the accident? So in your life, I want you to take your life and be able to say to yourself in your mirror, I am reclaiming my life today. I will not allow life to run over me as if I have no power to move. I will not create for myself victimization of. I will rise above this traumatization. Every day, we must tell ourselves this. Every day. So let's think about that. Let's invest in ourselves a little bit more than we have been in the past. And let's make that change today. 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 Trish, would you take it away?
Okay, so I'm going to say a scenario. Okay, so there's these two people, and they have two white pieces of paper, and one of them, they painted their paper green, and the other person painted their paper red. And all of a sudden, by accident, their papers clashed together, and it messes up the solid color of green and the solid color of red. There's some green on the red and some red on the green, and they're like, oh my goodness, it's ruined. I just worked so hard on this, painting this perfectly red and painting this perfectly green. Now, mind you, there is a pile of new paper behind them. There's a pile of new paper behind them. They can start over. They can redo it. But they're so focused on their papers being ruined, their first papers being ruined. But they can redo it with the new pieces of paper. And that's how reclaiming is. We bump into a wall and it hurts. The pain really hurts. And we're so focused on the pain because it's traumatic. It's you can't unfeel the pain that you're feeling. But if you put that aside and think about, okay, I hit my head on this wall, but am I still thinking correctly? Yes. Am I okay? Can I walk away from this? Am I still living? You know, those are the certain things we have to think about to reclaim what we can be and who we are. And it's very impactful, the story you told about the person looking at their pictures and how nurturing they used to be. And I've done that before. I've looked at my old self. It's like reflecting and recalling who I am in this journey of self-love and actually getting a statement of who I am and as a person. So I've looked at my old pictures and things like that, and I had to weigh out what I want to take from there and what I don't want back. And that also comes with reclaiming, throwing out the bad and refilling it, filtering your water into a clean, fresh, renewed substance. And so reclaim who you are. It's very important to do that. Find yourself, find the interest in discovering yourself, and know that change is there. Your pile of clean paper is there to rewrite your story, repaint your picture, and so you can begin again.
Love that. Very powerful. Always anticipate your Trisha's Treasure. Thank you so much for that segment. That was a very powerful piece of treasure. So in our transformation closing today, on this Transformation Tuesday, I love this saying. It says, in a quote, "I now see how owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do." To reclaim. When you own something, you are saying yes. So I want you all to go back to your luggage and that experience and reclaim it. Because you see, in our life, we have baggage. And there is nothing wrong with claiming that, yes, my luggage was lost. My baggage was waiting for me to reclaim it. Yes, I own it. But you see, with that baggage, I'm able to travel still. I am here to reclaim it. Very powerful stuff. We are going to do our best to get this to you on Streamline. We hope that you will share it. We hope that it will be part of something that will change your life, will change your thought, your mindset, and gives you real flashlight hope. I want to thank all of you who endeavor to listen to us. We have not went anywhere. We were down for a while, but we do have many videos that you can listen to. You can find our videos on Vibe Talk Facing the Lions. Trish, if you would do the honors to show them how to get there. Hashtag Vibe Talk Facing the Lion podcast. And it's always recorded. We're going to talk about this week how you really can make the best of this podcast, because it's interactive for a reason. And if you're looking for us, you know how to get to us. I want to thank my amazing co-hosts. Thank you so much. I love that illustration about the color paper. I love that. Beautifully done. Thank you so much. Thank you for putting up with me, because I am newly coming out of the COVID, and I'm going to tell you guys something. Without being a medical expert, take it seriously, because nobody can tell you like it is until you've experienced it. And you've had the COVID before, right, Trish?
Yes, I have.
And it affects people differently. And I'm coming back from it. I'm no longer contagious, but just getting back to being myself, even taking that and learning experience from that alone is far different than I've ever experienced the flu. So take care of yourselves, everyone. Who did we have in here today, Trish? And the Vibe Talk question is, what did you learn about yourself in today's podcast, and how did it make you feel, Trish?
The people we had in here today is Los Angeles, California, Palmdale, California, Bangladesh, and South Carolina.
Yes.
And my feeling in here today, it was very triggering by what I learned. I learned that, I had a traumatic episode this week because I saw my dad's, new car and stuff.
I love that too. Thank you for that. I'm sorry, Trish. Go ahead.
I didn't know that that's what that was, but yeah, that's what that was.
You identified it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, wow, I didn't expect it to, affect me like that, but it did, because, I almost lost my dad, and I can't imagine that happening. And, I also learned in here that it's okay to, talk about it, and reclaiming is also, reflecting and seeing what I know about myself, and what can I rekindle from who I was before. Not necessarily knocking who I was before, but basically seeing what I can take from it. Basically. So, yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. Thank you, everyone who comes into Vibe Talk, We've been down for a while, but we are still here whenever it's like that. Know that we deeply care about all of you. We're hoping that you find us, and we're hoping that you will answer the Vibe Talk question. What can you change today? What will you change today? What will you change if you could? Everyone who is living and breathing should be working on themselves, on changing something. Changing something. Don't be like the person who lays in front of the car and gets run over by the car and then blames the accident. Claim your life, claim your luggage, claim your baggage. Because from that, you are an amazing person. Thank you. And I learned and discovered from today's podcast that as I sit behind to give you this, I also can take away something and build onto it to reconnect. Because you see, I am hope. And that's what I want every one of you to say. Good morning, Kim. Is it Jenny? Jimmy? Good morning and welcome. We're at the tail end of our show. In fact, it's over. And if you have not come to Vibe Talk before, we want you to know something. That Vibe Talk will always post our podcast in its entirety. We're also on YouTube. Don't forget that part. Thank you for joining us. We will see you right back here tomorrow. Thursday. We will see you for Wednesday and Thursday. Don't forget to join us. Even if you just come in for our art, we want you to be able to reconnect with yourself. Art is always healing. And instead of being here tomorrow as we usually would, we're going to do Wednesday and Thursday on Thursday. Okay, everybody? Thank you for joining us. And thank you again to Trish, my co-host. Thank you for putting up with me. And thank you for all that you do. I want everyone to have a good day and make it a good Transformation Tuesday. See you next time.